I can't ethically give a newborn hepatitis B if there's zero risk to that newborn, because there is risk from the aluminum. There was a paper published later around that time that showed an increase in autism in boys who got the hepatitis B vaccine, and I just don't feel comfortable. And at first they were okay with that, and then they had a secret meeting and I was out.
I'm so excited to have Dr. Paul Thomas, America's most beloved pediatrician on the planet, America's favorite doctor. He has been through a lot. You've been through a lot, haven't you?
I have.
You have. So this show is maybe a little bit different from other shows that you've been on. This show is for people who've experienced sort of cancellation of one form or another, and I know that you have.
Ooh.
Predating COVID, even.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And just to get a better understanding of your journey, you know, and we just want to hear your story. How are you doing now? Let's start backwards.
Start with the positive. I'm doing amazing.
Okay.
And the moment I decided I was done fetching and stepping for the medical board, and I decided, you know what, you can take it and shove it.
Really?
Oh, I had high blood pressure. I was anxious all the time. I was, I've never been suicidal, and I wasn't then, but it was rough.
Leila and I feel very qualified to be hosting this show because Leila's experienced 2 rounds of her own cancellation attempts and has come out stronger than ever. I've had my own one experience, and this is an amazing insight. Once you start fighting and not rolling over, there's liberation in that, right?
Right.
Yeah. So when did you make that decision? That was a conscious decision on your part at some point.
To fight.
Oh,
hell yeah. So I started as a pediatrician, 35 years, 40 years ago, following the CDC. Government's trained. This is how you're supposed to do things.
This is you're a practitioner.
I was in Oregon the whole time.
Okay.
I trained in Dartmouth and California for my training, and then I practiced in Oregon. And I was having a family, and everything was going great. I'm making good money, and I'm a, busy pediatrician. I love kids. I love kids. So I'm just spinning around these rooms and having a blast. And then my youngest son really wasn't doing well. He was lining cars up just for 2 years and not learning he couldn't retain anything. So that was, let's see, he was born in 96. This would have been right around 99, 2000. Same time I also started waking up.
28 now, if my math is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time that I'm starting to become aware something's going on with our kids, not just mine personally, but my practice. And then I ended up seeing sort of a wake-up call, if you will, 2004, 5, 6, and 7. Actually, I had a wake-up call before that. I read this paper. You may have heard of Andy Wakefield.
I do.
Yes.
I do know.
Another guy who got canceled.
Yes. Actually, yes.
Yeah.
True.
Yes.
So he wrote a paper in, I think it was 1998 or 99, and it's basically showed that autistic kids in their guts had measles strain virus in their lymph nodes and a special sort of inflammation of those lymph nodes, and published it and just said, hey, here's a case study. There may be a link. Just for doing that, they persecuted him and eventually got his license. I mean, it was a 10-year ordeal. He did nothing wrong, because we know that, because his senior supervisor got his license back because he had the money to fight it, and Andy just couldn't. But anyway, I read that. It was like my first little glitch in this idea I was taught in medical school, that vaccines were safe and effective. You had nothing to worry about and all that. So I'm going, And then I was attending conferences and learning on my own and starting to realize, oh, there is literature out there showing we've got a problem with vaccine ingredients. We've got a problem with how vaccines are administered. There was mercury back then in most of the vaccines, thimerosal. There's been aluminum all along. There's formaldehyde. There's all sorts of toxic ingredients.
Early days of the internet, I assume. Was this pre-internet? Like, how did you get your information?
Yeah, this was pre-internet.
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
Yeah.
It was definitely early 2000. I think isn't that around when it started?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere around there.
And I just want our viewers to know that you had over 15,000 kids in your practice. You had a thriving practice.
Right, eventually.
Right. You were not just this small-time pediatrician. You had a ton of kids in your practice.
Yeah. So 2004, 5, 6, and 7, I see a kid in my own practice regress into severe nonverbal autism. And I was like, no, once, oh, that's what it's like. Twice, coincidence? This is weird. I'd never seen it before that. Never saw autism in med school. Never saw it in my training as a pediatrician. I mean, there was some mild stuff. We used to call it PDD-NOS, pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified. But this was the first severe, full-blown, nonverbal, no eye contact, spinning. I mean, these kids are many of them are in diapers in their 20s. I mean, they are 24/7 care. And I was like, the pediatricians and even the specialists we would send them to would say, well, we're sorry, your kid has autism. I don't know. There's nothing you can do. And give you a little handout. You can go get some OTPT and good luck. That was not okay. We're the pediatricians. We're supposed to know everything there is to know about why things happen to kids and what to do about them. And we were not being given any guidance on what to do. And nobody knows, apparently, they still don't know to this day what's causing autism.
When you were a kid, were you like an inquisitive little boy who just wanted to know all the answers to everything?
Yeah. I was one of those kids.
You're one of those kids.
You betcha.
You went deep.
I also was one of those kids. I grew up in Zimbabwe. It was Rhodesia when I was there. And I was one of those kids that was taught to stand up against authority. Mm. So,
why? What was the environment?
So the environment was my parents are white missionaries in Black Africa in Zimbabwe. And it was Rhodesia then. But the white government had all the power. So there was 22 or 23 Black Africans for every white Rhodesian. But the whites had all the power. And it was apartheid, basically. Mm-hmm. It just wasn't called that. And my parents didn't feel this was right. I grew up in a village. I was surrounded by Africans. I spoke the language. I dreamt in Shona. I mean, I was fluent. And when I was in, I think I was in 4th grade, we're in this little village school, and Black African inspector comes in and sees these 2 white kids, my sister and I, in the village, and goes, what's going on here? What are you guys doing here? You're not allowed here. It's a segregated society. There was swimming pools whites only, drinking fountains white only.
Wow.
Schools were definitely segregated, but here we were in this village school. They just hadn't visited for 4 years. So we got kicked out. I ended up in a city school with my white friends for middle school, all the way through middle school. And I was the head boy for the 8th grade, basically the last grade of...
Segregated, or this was a white...
This was the all-white school. So I would go to my white school for school, and then I'd play with my African friends after school. Mm. So when I was with my African friends, I would talk with my African accent. Uh-huh. And then, of course, I would go to school and speak with my regular accent so that everybody could understand me. People think I'm making fun of that. I can literally switch it on and off. I did my whole life.
You know, you bringing up your childhood now makes a lot of sense, how you were able to have the strength to fight against the grain and go against authority and say, no,
yeah,
I'm not going to just follow your lead.
I was supposed to hoist the Rhodesian flag on Independence Day, and I refused because it was an illegal white government that had stolen the sovereignty from the British Crown. So
how old were you?
So I was like 7th or 8th grade. So what would I have been? 12,
right?
Maybe. And so they had to proctor me and had somebody else hoist the flag. Then I got arrested in the train stations for handing out revolutionary information. I'm in the black section of the train station. Whites aren't allowed there, and I'm going down. I'm speaking Shona.
And how old are you?
Wow.
Same age, roughly.
Wow.
So I had a little bit of rebel in me.
Yeah.
So when I started seeing things not going right with the vaccines and the authorities, the Academy of Pediatrics, the CDC, the NIH, everybody's pretending like nothing's going on here. It's like I knew something was wrong. And I just had to know and figure it out because we are destroying children's lives.
It's the same thing when you were growing up. It's the same thing.
In a way, right? Yeah.
So what year did you write the book, The Vaccine Friendly Plan? And could you walk us through at what point did you realize you were starting to be canceled?
So I guess the first experience I had with being canceled was in 2007, after my fourth case of seeing a child regress into autism. I went to my partners. I was in a pediatric group at that point. There were 4 other pediatricians, and I had full partnership. And I said, I've been reading about what's in hepatitis B vaccine, the 250 micrograms of aluminum, and they moved it from teenagers, which made sense when we used to give it to teenagers, to newborns. But we already have the moms tested. We already know there's 0 risk for that baby. I can't ethically give a newborn hepatitis B if there's 0 risk to that newborn, because there is risk from the aluminum. And I had the papers that show, not to exceed 3 to 5 micrograms per kilo, according to the FDA. There was a paper published later around that time that showed an increase in autism in boys who got the hepatitis B vaccine. So I thought, if we're going to vaccinate, we should try to do it sensibly. And I just don't feel comfortable. And at first they were okay with that. And then they had a secret meeting and I was out. So that was my first cancellation.
Wow.
Yeah, because cancellation isn't just the media or the licensing board. Right. It could be your family. It could be your business partners.
Your colleagues.
I talk about being canceled in my family.
Well, I want to get to that.
That's later, yeah. So I thought, this is the worst day of my life. I have been in this practice. I taught residents and medical students for the first 5 years out of training, and I was highly regarded in my community as one of the top pediatricians. I mean, I'm in front of the community pediatricians leading case conferences and teaching, and I was an attending teaching residents and medical students. I mean, I'm at the top of my game, and I join a top practice and I build a massive practice. That's the one where I was having 30 plus newborns a month. My partners are getting 1, 2, or 3 newborns a month. It was a love-hate relationship too, because I was so productive. And the way they had that clinic set up, you got compensated to some degree based on production, which makes sense. You eat what you kill, as they say. Yeah. That doesn't work though.
That's a new metaphor.
That's not a good metaphor.
Not a good metaphor.
Here's your vaccine. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Dr. Paul, can I focus on those feelings? I want take me back to how you felt when they had the secret meeting.
Oh my God.
That's where I want to go. I want to be in your mind.
In the instant you hear that, I'm done.
Big surprise.
Oh,
out of the blue.
Out of the blue. I had no idea. Why would you not want to do what's right for kids?
Did you start to question your decision? Did you start
not that at all. There was no way they said it's unethical not to follow the CDC schedule. Now in Oregon, we still have religious, and back then we had both religious and philosophical. Now one of those is gone.
But did this take you back to your childhood? Did you all of a sudden go back to those?
I put it together.
Like those feelings of like an authority figure coming in, telling you needed to do something, but your gut and soul told you no.
Yeah.
That's like you in a way. You just
That's why I love him so much.
You know it, you feel it, it feels wrong, and I cannot keep quiet about it.
Once you know that you're doing something wrong, then in my opinion, I have no choice. Otherwise, I can't live with myself. I mean, many great people have said, if you witness something and do nothing, then you are part of the problem.
Yeah.
Right? There's lots of important quotes like that.
Easier said than done, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially in this case. But in this case, you see, I wasn't given the option. It wasn't like, well, you can stay if you follow the CDC schedule. It was, we're done with you. Okay.
Like you had some sort of infection or something, or some virus that they didn't want to be around.
It was a problem they were tired of having to deal with. I was outspoken about things. I had been giving them books to read about what I was learning.
Yeah.
And they would politely say thank you and never open them.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to deal with the fact that I was coming up with information that was inconvenient. One of my partners was an attorney. Married to an attorney. And so everything had to be very much by the book. So it's unethical not to do the CDC schedule was the philosophy.
You know, I'll say a little bit about the CDC. I remember being in the same situation with the lady who was running my school at the time, Centner Academy, as you know. She gave me a 200-page CDC document that said, for COVID, you need to follow every single one of these things, which was social distancing, putting the plastic glass insanity for kids, forcing kids to wear masks and walk in a certain direction. And
I remember you refused.
I refused, but like you, I have that rebel in me. And I took the 200 pages, I threw it in the trash, and she looked at me and she's like, you're going to lose my license over this. And I was like, then I will fight this fight alone, because I refuse to harm these kids over your license.
I'm in the middle of a couple
What did
of
that feel
very like-minded individuals. She's willing to get chained to the doors of the school, you know, and that sounds like you're quite similar in that way.
Yeah. So no, I think for me it was this. I had a huge family, so I have 3 biological kids, and I adopted 6. So I had 9. I now have added another one through marriage. But back then I had 9 kids to support.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I'm done.
Were you doing well financially at that?
Oh my
before
gosh.
that?
I was doing incredible.
Are you able to share, like, this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
How much money you were
making? $350,000 a year.
Okay.
As a pediatrician, that's big money.
A long time ago as well.
As a pediatrician, that's big money.
Yeah. Almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Oregon, which things don't cost as much as
So I mean, raising 9 kids, I wasn't rolling in the dough because they're expensive.
Right.
You guys know that.
Yeah.
But I was doing great.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, what am I going to do? Wash dishes? Because that was the last job I had before I went to med school.
So when they kicked you out, they were like, oh, by the way, leave your babies and your clients, your patients with us.
So we went through a negotiation, and there was a circle around their clinic that I wasn't allowed to be that close, so non-compete. And then there was, you can take these employees. So they had identified employees that were loyal to me, and they didn't want them in their office. Wow. So you take these employees, which included 2 nurse practitioners, by the way, who were more on the same philosophy of informed consent. Let parents decide. And so I got a couple of really good employees and a couple of nurse practitioners, and I was allowed to take some of my patients. So I got about, the way it wasn't, I lost access to my patients, but they sent a letter.
Yeah.
And so some of them found me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you speak to these partners to this day? Or?
No.
No. Were you social with them before and close?
I mean, we would have work parties and all that, but we weren't like socially close outside of work.
Mm-hmm.
But you essentially had to start over.
I had to start from scratch.
How old were you when you had to start over?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. 5 plus 13, 18 years after I was 29. So 39, 40s, mid to late 40s.
Okay.
So while you thought you were cruising, and you had the stability, using your voice because you knew you were onto something, you basically had to start from zero.
Yeah.
So you had a journey of almost 20 years of effing cancellation journey.
It's
long duration.
Going on for a while. So, at the time, I really thought it was the end of my career and my world. And I thought, hell no. I'm going to build the clinic that I should have built from the beginning and start out all on my own. Went out and took a $500,000 loan to do it, and created integrative pediatrics that ended up being like, if I hadn't been later canceled, this could have been a model clinic. So
everything you create gets canceled, basically.
Hey, there's a pattern here. You're onto something. Maybe I should just submit.
No, because he's fighting he's fighting the system, and he's creating a new.
You guys
world.
know about creating.
Yes. Listen,
sometimes you have to break a few eggs to make an omelet.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. So we started the new clinic with the foundation of, if you work there, you have to honor informed consent. That was my only rule. And then you just look for good people.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely hard to find providers in the pediatric world, so the pediatricians, nurse practitioners, who are willing to honor informed consent when it comes to vaccines, because of the scrutiny that pediatricians and nurse practitioners get put under. if you don't follow the CDC schedule. There is an unspoken or actually fairly clearly delineated policy and levels of coercion for you to vaccinate.
But pediatricians particularly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So-
And so most choose to the path of least resistance that also pays you very well is to vaccinate according to the CDC schedule.
So I want to fast
Go ahead.
forward a little bit
Yeah.
because you left. You actually started to build a very thriving
Took a
practice.
big loan.
You wrote this book called The Vaccine Friendly Plan that I know many mothers have followed, and since you've rewritten a new book,
Right.
that the Vax that we highly recommend everybody take a look at.
Yeah.
But you were cruising through this, and everything seemed fine until you received something from the medical board.
Right. So
Tell us a little bit about
tell you a little
that.
story about
Yeah, in a nutshell, encapsulate what happened
Yeah.
for the.
Well, I have to tell you a little story about the vaccine friendly plan and my co-author, Jennifer Margulis. So my mom lives in the Portland area, or lives. She's passed now. But I took Jennifer to meet her. And we had just published the vaccine friendly plan. And my mom goes, "So you're the one that put my son's head on a platter." She knew. And in fact, I knew. I was writing a book that was challenging the CDC.
Mhm.
I was saying there's a, in my opinion, better way. It's certainly different. Maybe it's not better, but at least it's different.
Mhm.
The reason I thought it was better was I was clearly minimizing toxins while still protecting against the things that actually could kill a baby. So it was a compromise strategy, if you will. I thought it would be enough to hopefully not have any severe autism, hopefully minimize harm. I've since learned that it wasn't enough. For example, I had one of the things that book recommended was wait till age 3 on the MMR, measles, mumps, rubella vaccine. And I had never seen a child. I mean, I gave a lot of kids the MMR at age 3. I did, because that's what we were doing. And I never had a single kid have obvious harm from it. But many years later, I had a family join my practice and said, we had read your book. And when we gave the MMR at age 3, our kid regressed into severe autism.
Mm.
It's like, oh, that's not even safe enough.
Mm.
It took about a year to a year and a half before I started getting letters from the medical board. And they came ferociously every month, a new letter, a new complaint. But these weren't patient complaints. These were contrived fishing expeditions by the
Get access to your records.
to get access to the
What
records.
year are we talking about, more or less?
2018,
Okay.
2017, 2018. The book was published in 2016. So I knew the trouble was coming.
Mhm.
And I had an attorney at the time who was the sweetest man, super bright. He says, Paul, I've been doing this my whole life. Just cooperate. You're going to be fine. And I'm telling him, you don't understand. This is a different animal we're dealing with. Oh, no. He reassured me. And ultimately, in the very end, he retired. And around that time, he says, you know what? I was wrong. You weren't fine. The board was out to get you.
So these letters started coming. Your anxiety starts to ratchet up a little bit, more and more.
The fear when you get a board letter, it's,
The first one.
well, the first one, it's a curiosity.
Okay.
But by the time you're getting, I figured out I got like close to 30 of them. Now, each letter is a new set
Case.
of walking instructions for you.
How long are they?
Oh, they could be a page, 2 pages, 3 pages. But there's specifics they're asking for.
And you've got 9 kids. So you're
I've got 9
thinking,
kids in a busy practice and an urgent care I started.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. And yet I've got to now address this, and they give you, a week.
A week.
They will respond to you 6 to 9 months later, maybe, or never. But you've got a week to respond with whatever they want. So my attorney's involved. What do? You need to respond, or they'll pull your license. You have no choice but to respond.
And that went on for.
That went on for a few years.
So how did your health suffer? What kind?
Yeah, I was under a massive amount of stress, and it's hard to talk about not being able to be completely resilient. I wanted to feel like I'm invincible. But under the onslaught of that, the other thing that's happening simultaneously is I'm starting to lose insurance contracts because of quality measures. One of the quality measures in pediatric is how well you vaccinate. It's not how healthy your population is. It's how well can you follow our protocols. So I got dropped by an important insurance plan, and then I later got dropped by another one. So now it's hitting my pocketbook. Not just all the added effort I'm having to put in, but I'm now having my income drop significantly from losing contracts. You lose contracts, you lost those patients. They're gone.
At this point, are you feeling anxiety? Are you feeling the stress? Like, what when you wake up in the morning, what were you feeling? Go through the days.
I mean, tonight.
You're losing sleep.
Yeah.
You mentioned you had high blood pressure.
I'm a pretty good sleeper. I got high blood pressure out of it. I'm one of those crazy high endorphin people. It's genetic. My dad's mom was sickly, happy all the time. I mean, it was, you got to be kidding. My dad was called Sunny Boy. He was always happy all the time. I was the same way. And I've measured my levels of, neurotransmitters, and they're through the roof. So I'm blessed that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But inside, the anxiety of knowing that it's all falling apart, and I didn't do anything to deserve it. I guess the injustice of it all was what was so hard to deal with.
Being on experiencing ourselves, there's been moments where we're like, what did I do wrong? We look within,
right.
like, what did I do wrong? We try to get some sort of sense of ownership, some contribution.
Yeah.
Did you go through that yourself?
All the time, because
Sure.
I knew I hadn't done anything wrong. I was standing up for the kids. I was standing up for the truth. I was standing up for trying to figure things out, for trying to make things better, and trying to be being disciplined is hard anyway, right? So the medical board is this all-powerful entity.
Yeah.
They have the right to get rid of your license, and you can challenge it. Good luck, right? The whole system is stacked. You are guilty until proven guilty. And your only recourse is to take it in front of a judge appointed by the state that appointed the medical board. And that judge can only make recommendations to the medical board. It's a total kangaroo court. And so...
Is nationwide or just Oregon?
It's many states, but it's how it was in Oregon for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Seary, who's the top attorney for ICANN, Del Big Trees, Highwire, he called me up at one point, said, I'm going to give you a free hour of coaching and consultation here. I will come to your trial and I will shred the other side. We will absolutely destroy them. But in the end, you're going to lose your license. It's a closed hearing. You don't get to talk about anything that was said. You don't get to broadcast anything about what happened at this trial. So he says, I don't see a win. Where's the win? I'll come if you insist, but you will lose your license and I will have destroyed them. And are you ready to pay those fines? Which they had concocted some ways where the fines were going to be $500,000 or more. Money I didn't have.
So financially,
I was already
sitting pretty. Then you got booted out. I imagine you built up a nice practice.
Oh, it was
over a period of time.
Booming.
15,000 patients.
15,000 active patients. And I had an urgent care that was doing well until they took that out.
How many employees did you have?
I was up to 36 employees at my peak.
So every night you're probably going to bed thinking,
you got to pay.
This could be all
businesses. You got to pay your employees first.
That's right. So every night you could be thinking, tomorrow this could be over, and I don't have any backing. I don't have any support. I'm a sole provider. I have 36 employees. I have 9 kids.
You feel responsible for your employees too.
Yeah, you
so you fight. So I was fighting for them. I'm fighting for the kids who I'm trying to protect. I'm fighting to survive financially. Fighting to save my other baby, which was my practice.
Yeah.
So my dream was this practice was going to be a model practice, and it would be an added security retirement benefit, if you will, because I had built that practice up to where it should have been worth probably $4 million, and it was dwindling to the point where I realized I might not even be able to give it away. So everything I had created was being taken, and at the same time, I'm staring a divorce in the face.
And meanwhile,
triple whammy,
stress and pressures with your spouse.
Yep.
Did she want you to go a different path?
That was the big problem. She wanted security, and I couldn't go there.
Do the vaccine.
Yeah. I mean, why are you doing this?
I relate to a lot of things you're saying. You know, I mean, my husband was obviously
all very supportive.
He was very supportive, but you know, at some point he's like, you know, if they want to get the shot, just let them get the shot. But like you, I felt.
I jokingly say I'll be like on the phone. A plexiglass company, yeah,
you can figure that out.
But you know, I feel so many similarities with you because I remember thinking, why is the world coming after me when all I'm saying is you don't know what you don't know, and just a pause to figure out what in the heck is in these shots.
Common sense.
Yeah.
And the world just hits you hard, and I felt the anxiety in my chest.
Yeah.
I had those nights of not sleeping. I had those nights of, you know, I'll never forget, you know, I got really close to these kids, which I'm sure you got very close to the kids in your practice.
Sure.
And I would go to school and they would run up to me and they would give me these beautiful hugs. And I remember many of them crying because their parents were pulling them out of our school because of my stance.
Yeah.
And what hurt me the most, it wasn't the media. It was the kids that wanted to be at my school where the parents said, we're out of here because this is too much. Like, tell me how you felt about knowing that you were putting your life on the line to protect these kids, and tell me like these feelings that you would have walking into your practice knowing that you were doing what's right, yet the world was attacking to you. I want to know more about that.
Well, I got a couple of stories or thoughts to share. One was, to answer your question directly, it was just me. I didn't have support at home with my wife. She didn't want to hear any of the stress because she was already dealing with her own stuff. And I couldn't go to the employees.
Yeah.
They're all counting on me.
They don't want to see you scared or...
No. So I had to put on a show.
Yeah.
And I was pretty good at it.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID came and I was teaching them about COVID and we're having lunch meetings and, you know, I kept that show going, but inside I'm like scared to death. This isn't going to last.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching the money coming in, going down, the contracts going away. The board letters.
They talk.
Yeah, they know. The board letters keep coming. So yeah, the stress level was intense.
How'd you deal with it? What did you do to get through it? Were you praying? Were you meditating?
Oh, I was meditating and praying a lot. And I was actually had some of my better connections with, you know, Holy Spirit and all that in those moments of praying and just everything's going to be okay. I got an interesting story to share. At one point in there, often, many times, parents would say, aren't you afraid for your life? They're going to come get you. And they would even tell me stories of other doctors who were taken out, right?
Suicided.
Yeah, exactly. Jeff Bradstreet was one that I knew well. It's like he was a brilliant, lovely man. Anyway, one day I'm driving to work and I'm having these fear thoughts that, you know, I know which way I drive. It'd be really easy just to have an accident, take me out. Should I be going different directions? You know, spinning in fear, which is not a place I like to be.
No.
You're supposed to be in faith. I know this. I grew up in the church. And I'm doing my meditation, and at times I'm fine. But in this particular morning, I was in full-on fear. In fact, I was so fearful I had gone and bought a whole bunch of weapons, and I signed up for a course where I was going to go learn how to use them and how to fight and all this stuff just in case. My very first patient that day was a 4-month-old well visit, nice young mom, do the whole thing, and it was a great visit. And as I'm about to leave, she says, you know, Dr. Paul, you don't have a thing to worry about. We've got you covered.
Out of nowhere.
I want to know what. Tell me more. Give me a second.
That fear, it left. I knew I was covered. And I know that to this day, so I don't know why it's still emotional.
No, I mean, it's beautiful. When she said that, she was talking about the angels. Was she praying for you?
She's praying. Says, we got you covered. We got a whole army.
It's so chill. Like, it's such
a whole army of people.
Oh, I love it.
I went home, told my middle son, he's the only He's the only son of mine. He's the only. He's the only son of mine who.
I told myself I wasn't going to cry on this show.
I wasn't going to cry on the show. And look what you did to me. I said to him, I can't take that course. You want to take it for me? It was like $3,000 I'd paid. I was going to go learn how to fight. Use all my weapons and all this stuff. And I realized
God had
kill
your back.
another person, and God's got me anyway.
So at that moment, your fear lifted.
Yeah. And then I was.
You knew that was your sign. That was your
It's a
sign.
huge sign. The other sign just came into my life is the person I ended up marrying, and that was another angel.
We love Dee Dee.
Yeah. So she's an incredibly God-connected person. So I'm doing my own meditation, but now I've got some support.
Yeah.
And
She worked with you at the time, right?
yeah, we were working together.
So you were alone, and all of a sudden you get an angel in your life
Yep.
that's going, I'm with you.
Super alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know.
And we used to take walks, and she just coached and coached and coached to help me figure it all out. Because I had a marriage falling apart. My mom says you need a trial separation. Because I think,
She was your angel.
yeah, and I think in retrospect,
My husband was my angel.
I was pretty close to cracking. Yeah.
What would that have looked like?
I don't know, because I didn't, thank God, crack. But I mean, I couldn't watch any movies that had any violence. I mean, we used to watch shoot 'em up just for fun. My soul, my spirit couldn't handle any of that. I just wanted love and peace.
Peace and love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David used to say the same thing. You just want peace and love. And sometimes you got to take that stance. And I really feel like we were born in this world right here and now, and we all have a purpose. And I feel like your purpose is really to show the strength that you had to be able to take a stance. And I think that God sent you, Dee Dee, because to do this alone is hard.
Oh, it wouldn't have continued. And she came and stood by me and says, no, you've got this. Well, actually, this is the beauty of her coaching. At first, she says, I've got you. Because when you're broken,
Yeah.
you don't see the way out. So somebody who's got some strength and a little more faith, a little more connection says, I got you. And then it's, we got this. And then pretty soon as you got this, and you know what? I've got it. We've got it. It's beautiful.
When you tell you felt broken, I want to tell me more about that. How
I
did you
just think I didn't think I could carry on.
This is after COVID started?
I was still in practice.
But just
until
go back a
December
little. You didn't think
2022.
you could carry on. What did that mean?
I didn't think I was going to be able to hold it all together. The practice with the economics of it, the marriage,
Pressure.
You were
the
cracked.
pressure. Yeah, I was cracking.
Crack.
I was cracking, and I kind of also have to say I was feeling like if I kept on that path, I wasn't going to last long. Now, you hear these people who die. I wouldn't have been suicide for me, but what the health was just going to not hold up.
Heart attack.
Yeah, heart attack, stroke, something.
So she was your lifeline.
Yeah.
She gave you that support that
Yeah.
you needed, along with
Help me
God and
reconnect.
prayers, and
Yeah.
help you connect and stay firm.
It grounded you
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
just to feel, okay, I'm back, like that kind of thing.
Oh, no. Okay, you're going to make me go somewhere. She's back there listening.
Let's do it. Let's go there.
There.
So,
Yeah.
so she will say it to anybody and tease that I wouldn't have had anything to do with you 10 years ago. I was arrogant, pompous, know-it-all. I'm like acting like I'm God. I'm spinning around these rooms, answering everybody's questions like I know everything. And got my YouTube channel. I got my vaccine-friendly plan book. I'm an author. I'm a blah, blah, blah. And your ego is like out of control. How can you she said, you were an asshole. And so part of what happened, the combination, everything I was going through, but she also was hard-hitting. She was not soft. She's
She's a tough cookie. I like her.
saying none of this ego stuff. It's got to go.
She humbled you.
Oh, yeah.
This humbled you. This whole experience
Everything.
humbled
But
you.
she made sure that I was coming out a genuine, real, loving, humble, God-seeking, God-connecting person, which is a beautiful thing. What an amazing outcome.
Yeah.
From where I was to where I am now. The fact that giving up my license was actually the final ticket of freedom.
Yeah.
And I didn't give up the
Gift,
fight.
in a way.
Oh, it was a huge gift. I mean, we're still suing the medical board. It's at the Third Circuit Court, maybe to the Supreme Court. It'll probably won't go anywhere, but that's not.
No, manifest something different than that.
Yes.
It's going to go wherever it needs
going
to
to
go.
go.
Oh, there you
needs
go.
to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
We're putting this in God's hands, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Everything could change.
Yes, good. I will tell you, prayers got me through it a lot as well. Prayers and meditation.
She's very angry.
I would say, God, I know you've selected me for a reason to be that person that stands in front because you're strengthening my soul and you've chosen me because you know I could do it.
And please tell David to get his head out of that. And everybody else get their head out of their ass.
Yeah. If only they would listen.
No, but I knew the more I prayed, I knew that this was all for the right reason. And what are your feelings now that you surrendered your license? You said, take it. I don't need this piece of paper.
I don't want it back, by the way. Even if they gave it back to me, I don't want it because it means they're in control.
Their rules, they control you.
No, never again. Yeah. I want to always be able to speak the truth. I truly believe, if you think about it, how is it that so few of us pediatricians, I mean, I'm one of the very few who was put in a position to have fully vaccinated kids, a whole bunch of vaccine-friendly plans, partially vaccinated kids, and then a growing massive number of unvaccinated kids, and I get to see it all.
Yeah.
Most pediatricians don't see it.
You were served a purpose.
I was put in this place with the background of my training that my parents provided me in Africa.
Yeah.
To question authority and to keep seeking for the truth and to stand up for what's right.
Yeah.
And then to see it. And then, thank you, board, for asking me to prove that the vaccine-friendly plan was as safe as the CDC schedule. When I got that letter, I'm going, you've got to be kidding me. I was like, I can't believe this is ridiculous. The CDC doesn't even prove that one schedule 1 year is any better than the next. I was pissed.
You had to prove it based on your data, and you hired an independent person to prove it. That was proven, and then again, you were canceled again for proving it based on real data.
Got published online within 3 to 5 days. I get a call from my attorney, Paul, you cannot go to your clinic. You cannot contact any patients. You cannot write any prescriptions.
Oh my God.
You're done.
This is what year? When was this?
This was, let's see, February of 2019 was the letter so I proved it November of 2019. So it was December of 2019.
Okay.
So hold on. They asked you to prove it. You proved it.
I proved it.
And then all of a sudden,
a threat to public health.
Now, how do you feel about that when you got that?
Another. Oh my God. I'm done this time.
Just getting whipped for
they got me this time.
But I want to feel the feelings when you're reading that letter.
Oh, just
you thought
defeat.
You thought you won,
right?
Because you actually were like, "Hey, world, I've proved it." So
okay.
You proved it with your data. Yeah. There was a research paper published that later got retracted. But I want you to, in your mind, go back to you reading that letter. What did you feel? What was going through your mind? Like, did you become suicidal?
Never.
Were you depressed? Like,
Never.
where did you go?
I never was obviously depressed, but it was very depressing. And very overwhelming. I remember driving in the country, and this is a funny story. So I'm driving the country just trying to clear my head. I like being on the road and just it clears my mind. If I can just be, I can't remember if I was on a motorcycle. I think I was in the car. And I'm listening to a song, Running Against the Wind, Bob Seger. And I'm thinking,
that's good.
That's it.
It's a sign.
I'm going to start a show and we're going to go call it Against the Wind. And I started right away with my show, which gave me a new purpose and a new direction. I had all this time. There's nothing else I could do. I couldn't see patients. I couldn't call patients. There's some unwinding things I had to do because at that time, I also had an addiction clinic. I was helping people get off of opiates. And to do that, we used the tool Suboxone, buprenorphine. And it's a partial agonist, partial antagonist. So it allows them to not go through withdrawal, but still have a little bit of an opiate effect so that they can't get high from it, but it can help you wean off. So I was having great success with that. I wasn't allowed to write them a prescription. I had about 30, 40 patients. I was just, sorry, good luck. And now they're going to go through withdrawal because they don't have their meds. That felt horrible. So I scrambled to help find them people to go to. And then I started working on the new show. So that gave me my new direction. I'm going to fight now. And this is wrong. Now I went back into fight mode.
Like, I'm not laying down. This is it.
No.
You know what? You pushed me.
What else can you do? You already took my license, so what are you going to do to me? So, okay.
At home, sometimes when I'm feeling a lot of pressure, I snap, at the kids or Leila or whatever. Yeah. And was anything going on at home that's like you regret?
Let's see. At that point,
were you getting a divorce then, or at what point did that happen? And did the divorce ultimately happen because you were like, okay, we're going, your purpose and my purpose is not aligned?
Yeah.
What went down there?
There was some personal family stuff that was the last straw for me on that one. So I had 4 adopted kids from Zimbabwe, and over the years, my wife then had just been unable to really love them and accept them as our own. The way I grew up in Africa in the village, I mean, it doesn't matter the color of your skin. It doesn't matter where. I mean, you could be walking down the street and it's dinner time and you get welcomed in. It's an open, it's the true village. It was beautiful. That's how I was raised. So our house was a revolving door of people, plus we actually adopted these kids. And when she wasn't willing, they were no longer willing to even come to our house. Two of the 4. And then the third one came and was sent away, wasn't allowed in the house. Like, I can't go on like this. That's not me.
You're just a man of integrity all the way around.
Well, not that. I'm not no saint or angel for sure. But that was not going to sit well with my soul. At this point, I'm trying to really become more about love, and I can't even have my kids in my home. Yeah. So it was a complete disconnect. That's when my mom said, just do a separation. And so I did.
How was so Dee Dee brought your attention to your huge ego. Was that a process to bring awareness?
Yeah, she had to beat on it quite a bit. And when it would try to raise its little head, she'd like stomp it down again.
Ego is very powerful.
It is.
It's very destructive,
I still will try to sometimes slip into it, and she'll remind me. I don't slip as often anymore.
Yeah.
But
we're all about love and connection too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what I want to know is, okay, so Dee Dee helped you, God helped you, the coaching, having that rock. Now that you didn't have a license anymore and you decided to go into coaching, tell me, like, what did that feel like? Was it a relief? Did you feel like take us there?
Massive relief the moment I made the decision to, here, you can have it. And thankfully, my attorney was able to negotiate. They released all charges in exchange for the license. So clean slate, you can have it. Everything's dropped. They got what they wanted. They wanted me out of practice.
They wanted you out because you had a big mouth.
Yeah.
And you were not afraid to speak the truth, and you were not afraid to go
at rallies. I spoke at the Capitol. I spoke at all over the place. And
they tried to silence you.
Yeah.
The story's not over.
No.
Things are very much in a state of flux right now with the new administration.
Right.
And who knows what can transpire.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, we may be called for even greater things, right? I mean, we have these poor kids who are still going into pediatric offices and getting hammered with so many toxic vaccines. And I mean, it's their choice, right? It's parents' choice to do what they want to do, but they don't know. I just want people educated so they can truly make an informed choice. Informed consent is the ethical principle upon which all medicine should be based. You should not take a medical procedure without being informed of the risks and the benefits.
And do no harm. This is a Hippocratic oath.
Preferably first, do no harm, right? Especially when you're taking a healthy, natural immune system baby and you bring them to a toxic slew of products that is going to almost certainly change the
toxic slew. Do you ever lie in bed awake at night? Like, why is this happening to me? Why? Trying to find a purpose in all of this?
I mean, I suppose in a way a lot. I sleep pretty easily, so I'm blessed in that way. But there would be times where the brain wouldn't turn off, especially during the moments when it's all falling apart. You know, the practice is going to go down. The marriage is going to go down. The income is going to zero. How am I going to support my life, my family, and all that? And then you try to process, and I'm a creative thinker, but I can't find solutions. So you keep spin. Yeah, there are plenty of sleepless nights, or at least.
What do you think the big grand design is? What is this all about for you and your journey? Any insight? Maybe we just don't know yet.
I know. I feel very called to represent the kids who don't have a voice. I feel blessed to have love in my life. I have a roof over my head and food in my belly, too much. And I'm happy. And so many people are not. And because of the unique way I was able to figure out what's happening and the exposures I had to what has happened to so many unfortunate children who've been harmed, I have a duty. I have a responsibility. If I let my knowledge just disappear with a whimper, who else is going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who else can do it? Who else has had the opportunity to see what I've seen, know what I know firsthand? I mean, this is not hearsay. Most people are reading things in books or journals and trying to decipher. I got to live this.
Mm-hmm.
I have a responsibility.
I feel like amazing things are in store for you. I just feel it. I felt it from the moment I met you that you're a good soul, and I've always loved your courage and your strength. I know we've had many conversations over the past few years, and you've always been somebody that I've admired that really is taking a stance for our kids. And we need more people like you to take that stance.
Well, you two have taken some nice stances too. So I really loved the COVID one when we're all like trembling with, oh, this COVID's going to get us. And you're like, forget COVID. No.
So just
the plexiglass.
The present moment. Yeah. What are you doing now? You're providing pediatric coaching for families. Right. And if anybody wants to connect with you, how would they do that?
So they just go to kidsfirstforever.com.
Kidsfirstforever.
We can put that slide on the screen.
Both Dee Dee and I offer coaching. I coach mostly on the vaccine issue. It's surprising how many, well, probably not surprising, because you own a school, but so many parents still don't quite understand the choices, and they're afraid to do none, but what about those diseases? Yeah. Because they just don't have all the information. Yeah. Or you have one parent wants one thing and another parent wants the other. So in that instance, how do they come together? And so I can take those situations and walk them through what I experienced firsthand, then the data, lots more data. Then what I do is I do basically an informed consent process where I say, all right, let's start with pregnancy. Did you do any vaccines? Let's talk about the ones that would be given in pregnancy. What are the risks? What are the benefits? All right, let's go to the newborn, Hep B. Here's the story with Hep B. It's all risk, no benefit. I walk them through all the vaccines.
Straight up informed consent. So ultimately they make the decision.
They make the decision. I make it very clear for every single coaching session. I'm not licensed. I don't diagnose. I don't treat. Think of me as Professor Dr. Paul, and I'm giving you information. You get to decide.
Decide for themselves. Yes.
Yeah, yes. You should decide.
Critical thinking. I think we kind of lost that.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. I'm speaking when it works out to do so, to share this information to a broader audience.
So you have 9 kids.
I do.
Yeah. Do you ever come home and have a bad day and everybody's like looking at you and like, what's that all about? Why is he having a bad day? And
or were your kids, were they on your side? Were they against you? Were they like, Dad, what are you doing? You're impacting our food supply? Like what
so they were out of the house by the time I was going through this. Okay. So you got to remember, I'm like 67 years old. My youngest is 28. This battle is recent. right? So we were past that. They're in the house, so that it wasn't an active thing with them. I do have a story.
You're an empty nester, basically.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
But I do have a story about the kids and being canceled.
Sure, tell us.
Yeah,
So you guys heard of Black Lives Matter?
of course.
I have 4 Black children.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in an African village where I spoke Shona, the African language. I dreamt in Shona. I had an African accent, which I can throw out at any time and sound African to this day. In fact, I sound more African when I do that than they are. They actually grew up a little bit in the village, but more in the city.
Mm-hmm.
Basically what I'm saying is I still feel like I'm an African just in white skin.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So when Black Lives rolls through, my kids have all gone through college and gone through the indoctrination in college.
Mm.
And I had 2 of my kids say, I can never understand because I'm white. You can't understand. I had one of them say, there's going to be casualties in this war. And sometimes, if a white person has to die, it's a war. I had them say, you failed us because you were white.
Your own children.
My own children. And experienced a basic disconnect cancellation for a while.
Did they learn
your
this
own
in
kids.
college?
Clearly, some of it was in college.
And the cancellation wasn't over the vaccines. It was over the indoctrination, what was happening in the school and the colleges, which kids are experiencing across the nation.
Yes. I mean, if there's a
Turn your own
guy
kids
who
against you.
understands African culture, I'm up there.
So basically, the school was canceling you as a father by turning your children against you.
The cancellation of their own father.
That one was tough. That one was tough. I mean, I even went to a couple Black Lives Matters rallies. I wanted to see what was going on. I even marched in the streets. I mean, I'm not proud to say it, but I was trying to figure out what is going on. What is going on?
And did you have an aha moment of, oh my gosh, this is all part of the indoctrination and brainwashing?
I kind of started realizing something wasn't right with that.
We should have had a whole episode on this.
That could have been another whole episode.
Forget this other stuff.
Have me
This
back.
is more interesting.
Yeah, you can have me back.
White guy canceled.
By his own kids because of college,
Yeah.
I mean, guy in a black, was it, how did you put it? A black guy in a white skin.
I'm a Black African in white skin. Yeah.
Cancer.
No, so when I was
I could visualize you as a kid in the village running around.
I was the cutest little kid.
So, I don't know about cute, but I stood out like a sore thumb, that's for sure. But no, in the street when I'm a preteen, early teen, and realize my whole upbringing was in the Shona culture and speaking the Shona language. And then I had to go to a white school, sure, because I had to, but then I still went home and played with my African friends. Yeah. So if I'm walking down the street and coming towards me, I'm like, say, 11, 12. Coming towards me are 2 or 3 white guys who are like 15, 16. That's very threatening if you don't understand the culture. Guess what I would do? I would cross the street and walk with the Black people that were walking on that side of the street, my African homies.
Yeah.
We didn't use the word homies, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That was where I was comfortable. That was where I was safe.
Yeah.
So that's why it kind of did sting when my own kids were like, oh, you have white fragility.
Mm.
Oh, how do you fight that?
Yeah.
Have you worked this out?
We're coming along. We've come along pretty far with 1.5 of the 4.
It's always something.
Yeah,
kids.
Yeah. So that was just an aside with the kids. That's obviously in the realm of cancellation. That whole cancel culture
That was a white cancellation.
That was something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, the world seems to be understanding a lot more about that. Just the big indoctrination that's happening in colleges, and I try and educate parents to make sure you know where your kids are going to school, because I've had parents tell me the story from their white children that would come to them saying, you don't understand LGBTQ, or you don't understand Black Lives Matter. And you're like, what do you mean? You're white. What are you talking about?
I mean, to the defense of, say, my African kids, they were on point when they described to me what they go through in Oregon. if you're black and you're driving in rural Oregon, so when my daughter's driving, they pull up to a gas station and they wouldn't serve them gas. They said, "Oh, we're out." A white person drives up and they serve them gas. You can't pump your own in Oregon back then.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're thinking they're going to run out of gas in a dangerous area where they don't know if they're going to live. They have fear of their own lives. Or if you get pulled over by a cop, they know to put their hands up on the steering wheel and they don't move them. And if they're asked for their ID, they go, "Well, it's there, but I don't want to move my hands and be shot." Afraid for their lives.
Right.
I don't have those fears.
So I have that perspective.
So there is definitely something there, and there's something to one of my African daughter is her whole expertise is diversity. That's what she does. I mean, she's done diversity training around the world for major companies. I mean, she's up there in that world.
Yeah.
And historically, there have been disadvantages to certain populations, whether you're a woman or a person of...
I just want to hit this for a second.
Yeah.
Because you're this guy who sees no color.
Right.
And so from your perspective, you see no color.
And they said that was the problem.
Yeah, but I
see, if you don't see color, then you can't understand us. But if you don't see color, what my husband said,
I want to interrupt you for a second.
You don't see color, you don't see me.
No, but I want to interrupt you for a second because at our school at Centner Academy, we teach our kids to not see color.
Yeah.
To just see each other's souls.
Yeah. And
to know that we're all God's creatures. It doesn't matter if
King said the same thing. And I was raised that way.
Yeah.
But that particular movement distorted things.
Yes. I don't support that movement. I'm all about we're one.
We
have a nephew
have to get back to love.
Yes,
we have to get back to love and souls. And
so I have a question. At any point in time during this whole cancellation where you just like, you know what, screw it. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm just going to conform with the medical board. I'm going to conform. At any point in time, I know for me, I was like...
Go back to vaccinate?
Yes.
Oh, hell no.
Yes.
No. I could not even fathom that. I was walking into exam rooms to help finish the process of informed consent. Yeah. And by the time I was done, this family that was going to vaccinate and pay me several $100s in bonuses that would have come from that is now not vaccinating. Yeah. And I would walk out and just sort of smile, thinking, well, I did my job well. And I'm going, this is not a good business plan.
Yeah.
It's an expensive decision.
This is not a good business model. Every room you walk into, you're costing yourself money. You need to just stay away.
Dr. Thomas, I voided over $1 million in contracts because of my stance on COVID. So I
heard about that.
And it felt good to know that I'm working for the big guy upstairs and I'm not working for the dollar. And it all comes back around. If my feeling is it all comes back around when you just stay firm in integrity and you're doing what's right based on the information you have. And that's what I believe you've done.
Thank you for having me on your...
Dr. Paul Thomas, America's favorite pediatrician, most beloved pediatrician.
You're too kind.
Really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for sharing so openly and beautifully from your heart. Thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.